Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to Scramble Drill. I'm Josh Johnson, and over there is Mr. Ben Watts. Ben, how you doing?
Not good.
Oh,
I had
what ails
a
you?
horrible week in fantasy. Horrible.
Hit me with it. This is
One of
just
my-
stretch out on the couch. Let me know how I can be of assistance.
Okay. So in the granddaddy of them all, I'm still got a good shot to win in that league. I'll say that. But there's an outside chance, given to some funky rules we have in that league, that I do enjoy personally, but some funky rules, I could lose in that one still. And the only other league I'm winning is the Scramble Drill Podcast Dynasty League. And I'm a full-blown rebuild in that league. So, everywhere else I'm taking massive L's.
Oh, jeez. Well,
It
I don't know
doesn't
what to
feel
tell you
good to
because
only win your rebuild league. It does not feel good.
I'm honestly not doing a ton better. The Granddaddy of them all team is backsliding because everyone is injured. I have my log team that is just steamrolling, but outside of that, it is bleak everywhere.
I'm losing in log, and I don't want to point fingers, but it is entirely Kyle Pitts' fault. It is. I'm putting 1,000% it is Kyle Pitts' fault.
You did go and remedy the situation, though, and I might add, you did it in a way that was incredibly frustrating.
I did.
But I mean, what are you gonna do?
I brought in Trey McBride.
As
The
I
rest of the
said,
team's good, so that was the piece we're missing was a tight end. Kyle
It was
Pitts,
so funny.
after 4 weeks, we have decided he's not the answer.
you sent me the offer that was offered to you, and my response was, as your competitor, I'm angry. As your friend, you take that, you do not send a counter, you just accept it, and you run away with your bag of money. So frustrated.
I like it.
Yeah, well, it was a good move for you. I don't know about your counterpart over there, but
I didn't give up. I didn't give up nothing for him, but it definitely helps my team greatly moving forward.
yes. The best part of it was, and I guess I don't know. I don't know what your counterpart was doing. We'll leave it at that. We'll just leave it there.
I'm cool with it. Keep Trade
I know.
Cut said it was fair, so
Yes, famous last words. Okay, we've got
I
news.
did plug it in.
We're-
I was just curious.
I'm sure. See, that's the thing is you can plug it in. You can be like, actually, according to this, it's
The
not
calculator
that bad.
said it was fair.
We've got
According to my
news. We've also got
calculations.
rankings on this episode. Normally, we're reacting
We'll
to
do
all
it
the
this
games.
one. Yeah.
We're shaking it up a little bit. We figured now that we've got 4 weeks of information for about 95% of all of these guys, we would adjust our rankings accordingly. And, as the saying goes, be water with how we feel about all of these fantasy football assets. So we're shaking it up. We're doing a rankings episode,
And this list
doing
could change.
rest of the season.
This list could change.
Oh, it will change. Most
And I'm
likely,
going to be honest with you. I really hope this list changes because there's some names in some places that I really don't like.
I am right there with you. There's a couple, and it hurts me a little bit. I'm not going to lie. But we've got to be
Not in the
honest.
Situation.
We have to be intellectually honest. Let's talk some news here. We got injuries because that's all the news that there is at this point in the season.
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey, apparently, according to a report that you sent me about an hour ago, and I'm just fingers crossed that it's from dubious sources, apparently he's got Achilles tendonitis in both legs.
I mean, I don't know a ton about Achilles tendonitis other than it hurts. I know in dogs, when a dog tears their ACL, there's like a 80% chance they tear the other one. Maybe it's just because he got it in one, he's going to get it in the other. I don't know. But the thing that's frustrating is the story was very vague. it's just like he's now got it in both legs. That's what, according to the German doctor he went and saw this past week. But what does that mean? You
There
can
was
tell
also
me he
a
has it in
report
both all you
yesterday
want. I saw that as well.
that he's going to be back early November. He'll be out another month.
I don't know.
So I don't know. I don't know whether or not I should believe he will be out for the season or he's coming back like week 9.
The 49ers are playing this way too close to the vest, and the CMC owners need to know, and the Jordan Mason owners need to know, what do we have? How
It's
bad
so
is
funny.
it, Doc?
It's so funny in our comment sections on social media. All of the comments are convinced that Christian McCaffrey's done for the year. They're like, don't
Well, that's 'cause
They're like,
always gonna
don't
be
lie
like
to everybody. He's done. And my favorite part about sports is that everybody is so convinced that they're right. It's great. So if you say anything, everybody's like, no, you're stupid. It is actually, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But nobody knows. That is the frustrating part of this. Anybody who's telling you they know for sure when Christian McCaffrey's coming back does not know what they're talking about. There's not a soul alive, including Christian McCaffrey probably, that knows when he's going to play football again.
I mean, I wish at this point they would, and not just because I have Jordan Mason in the league, partially because I have Jordan Mason in the league. I wish they would just shut him down and just go ahead and say, like, we're going to rest him. We'll bring him back in the playoffs. Because if that's what's going to happen, like, we just need to know. Like, and Kyle Shanahan, we needed to know this before the draft happened. We needed to know this weeks before, like, everybody did our drafts.
Yeah.
But
I would have liked, and I didn't pick him at the 101 anywhere. I feel terrible for everybody who did, but, like,
I am so
it
sorry.
would have been nice to know, guys.
That
Anyways.
changes up so many draft boards, but here we are.
Rashee Rice most likely tore his ACL on Sunday because Patrick Mahomes
devastating.
swan dived right into his knee. He's done for the year.
I think Patrick is intentionally trying to play the game on hard mode.
He's doing his best to make it very
He's trying
difficult.
to crank it
I will
up to
grant you
all
that.
Madden. He looks bored out there, so he's like, all right, he's trying to reset the clock. Like, what was I before all this? I only had Kelsey at one point. All right, I'm going to kill Rashee, and we're going to go back to only Kelsey and see how that does. And they're still 4-0.
He is doing his best to generate some adversity, isn't he? With all the interceptions.
Well,
Killing
like I said,
Rashee.
he's bored. Once you play a game for so long and you get really good at it, you're like, all right, I keep winning. Let's crank it up a notch. And he's still 4-0. No one's beat him yet. He's trying to see
Yeah,
how
that's
far
wild to
it
me.
goes before he can't win. How many pieces do I need to take away before I stop winning?
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about what this means for the offense a little bit later because it does affect some rankings for some players. But suffice to say, big blow for the Chiefs offense. Shakes things up a little
I'm
bit.
upset because I had Rashee on a dynasty team that looked like it was contending, largely because of Rashee Rice. And a couple redraft leagues, I'm now losing Rashee Rice because he was on the My Guys list, and I took him.
It's so funny. The only league that I
annoying.
have Rashee Rice was a league where I'm on a rebuild and I traded for him on the rebuild. And I felt really good about it. And now I kind of feel better about it
Great.
because I'm losing points
Awesome.
and I still have Rashee Rice.
You're like, awesome, now I'm going to get the 101, and I have Rashee Rice.
Problem is, I don't know if I'm getting the 101 because
Actually, no,
the guy
in that
who
league,
is
you're not getting the one. You're a
it is, and I don't want to exaggerate here, but it is genuinely the worst dynasty team I have ever seen in the history of me looking at dynasty. It's so bad. There's not a
He
single
started a full
startable
lineup
asset.
and scored 67 points. Or 57
this is-
points. 57 points. You know how many
This
players
is
you start in
deep
this
leagues.
league?
Deep
11.
leagues.
11.
Start
league
11,
median's
you got
130.
67 points. Yes. This man's scoring 60 points below league median every week.
He's the one. He's the favorite for the 101 for probably the next 4 seasons.
Yeah, the team is so bad. Anyways, last piece of news here. Anthony Richardson got injured once again. Does not look very serious. It's a hip injury of some kind, even though he left after being obviously concussed. So I don't know if that factors into the whole injury thing, but
I could feel you roll your eyes from where I was at when that injury happened.
I was so mad.
He's
it was
been
so
playing bad,
stupid.
and now he's hurt.
Yeah. And the way he got hurt was even more ridiculous because he gets hurt on the scramble where he gets hit in the hip, fumbles the ball, they recover it, he goes to the sideline. Comes back. The first play they call after he's left the field with injury is a read option, and he gets torpedoed in the face by Minkah Fitzpatrick and then immediately goes to the locker room. It's like, guys, what are we doing? We're getting this man killed again. And then it was all a scheme to get Joe Flacco on the field because Joe Flacco's incredible at football. Shane Steichen was just playing his hand right so that he could get the real QB1 in Indianapolis out there.
Yeah. I mean, I hate to say this, but for the fantasy value of Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman, I will be okay if Anthony Richardson is not there.
It's
because
for
Joe
sure
Flacco
a boost
is
to Michael Pittman.
amazing for those guys.
It's Michael Pittman goes from genuinely like wide receiver 35-ish to in the conversation for top 15 with Joe
He's
Flacco
top
at
20
quarterback.
for sure.
Yes. Crazy town. Speaking of rankings, do you want to hop into rankings, cross-positional, top 24?
Tier
okay,
base.
let's start with
Got
running
them
backs.
in tiers.
We do. Tier 1 for the running backs. At 1, we have Saquon Barkley. At 2, we've got Alvin Kamara. And at 3, it's Kyren Williams.
So what you're saying to me is all of the untrustworthy older running backs, guys in a tough situation, not a lot of draft capital with Kyren Williams, they're crushing it. And the young, stud, most talented backs in the league are nowhere to be found.
It is very weird. It's a guy that we don't like historically on the podcast in Kyren Williams, and it's two old busteds. No, I mean, I'm sure he's a great guy. We did not like the fact that he was undrafted, and then I guess it doesn't matter anymore at this point. He's been so good for so long. With Saquon and Alvin Kamara,
Saquon,
it feels a little weird, but
I kind of
yeah,
low-key expected Saquon to be this high.
I did too. I was not very concerned about Jalen Hurts stealing rushing production or touchdowns. I don't know if that was a minority opinion or not, but I don't know that I would have projected overall RB1, but up there for sure. Kamara's a little bit surprising, but I mean, he's been excellent so far this year.
Kamara's not the running back one in the season. He's the top overall player in PPR leagues. He's number 1.
Yeah. Tier 2.
And it's not going anywhere. Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. Tier 2. We have 2 names. We have Breece Hall at 4 and Jonathan Taylor at 5.
What a time. I mean, I honestly, before the season, my odds on who I thought were most likely to be the running back one in the season, even before the CMC news, I thought it would be Breece Hall and Bijan Robinson. And now Breece Hall is in tier 2.
Yeah. And Breece is really interesting because I think he has looked very good at points, but he's not looked as electric as he has in the past. He hasn't broken off runs the way he has in the past. Some of it, I think, is just that offense is struggling to get things going with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, he's averaging less than 4 yards a carry right now. The receiving volume's there. Yeah, I want to say it's the offense because Garrett Wilson, who I also really like, is going to be low on this on the list when we get to receivers. But I've got to see things turn around and pick up before I jump fully back on there yet.
Yeah, and with Jonathan Taylor, he's been productive. I think what's pulling him down at the moment is an ankle injury because if you were just to look at his production right now, he probably belongs in tier 1, maybe at the bottom
I
of
was
tier
going to
1.
kind of say the same thing.
But he has
Like,
been very good.
He's been killing it. I want to hear news on the. They said it was a high ankle sprain, but he's not a candidate for IR. They're not sure if he's going to miss time. It's a lot up in the air right now.
Yeah. So, beyond tier 2, we have a tier for a single player all by himself, and it's called the Kyle Pitts tier. And the player in the Kyle Pitts tier is
it's not tier 3.
Bijan Robinson.
It's not tier 3. Tier 3 is coming up next.
Yes.
It's just Bijan here.
Bijan's by himself. I
love the name for it. I love the name. So fitting.
Well, you did a great job.
Fitting.
That is your. You can coin that one. You can put the little registered mark. That is registered to Mr. Ben Watts. That's a good one. I feel a bit ashamed because we had a listener question on the Starts of the Week episode, and somebody asked, like, Bijan has not been performing. When are we going to get the not vintage, but just the signature Bijan performance?
Never saw it really last year either.
I was like, it's coming. It has to. He's been really good so far, but he hasn't scored, and the offense has looked a little sluggish, and I think it's going to pick up. And then he turns in his worst performance of the season on Sunday. And not only that, he has only 7 carries to Tyler Algier's 8. It's just kind of befuddling, and I don't really know what to do with him. If he were getting a workload that you could project going forward as this is going to be consistent, he's going to have a very solid workhorse workload, he's a tier 1 back. The problem is the workload either has not been great or he hasn't scored, which is just weird, and he's confusing.
It's frustrating. I want to hold out hope a little longer because in the same comment, Drake London is not producing, at least not what you want. Kyle Pitts is obviously not producing. It's not what you want. I still genuinely believe for all 3 players, Bijan, London, and Pitts, they're elite talents at their respective positions. They really are. The offense just hasn't figured it out yet. I don't know if it's Kirk Cousins hasn't quite figured out where the targets need to be going in the offense. I don't know what it is. And that's why we've got him in the Kyle Pitts tier of this should be better than it is. And I think it will be, but I have no data or information or stats to back up the claim other than I know he's an elite running back and I know he's incredibly talented.
Yeah, it's weird times. Tier 3. Tier 3 is a little bit larger from 7 to 13. So we have James Cook, Derrick Henry at 8, Devon Achane at 9, Jahmyr Gibbs at 10, James Conner at 11, Jordan Mason at 12, and Aaron Jones at 13. What jumps out at you from this big ol' chunk of running backs here in Tier 3?
I mean, these are just the consistent. These are the guys for whatever reason, have honestly been the most dependable guys for fantasy all season. James Cook.
They really have.
Dependable. Derrick Henry, kind of a slow start, but he's really starting to pick up now. Achane had a bad game last week, but if he hadn't, he'd probably be in several tiers higher than this. Jahmyr Gibbs feels weird to have him here, but like he hasn't popped yet, but he also has yet to have a bad game either. He's having like 17 points a game. James Conner, his old self, is still killing it. Jordan Mason is the name, I feel like, and it's because we're waiting on the CMC news. He could fall out of this tier, or he could shoot into a completely different tier. Because if they announce that CMC is out the rest of the season, I'm putting him up there with Breece Hall and Jonathan Taylor. Like, he's a locked-in top 6 back.
He has been super consistent. I don't think he's done a whole lot through the air, but he's got such a consistent rushing workload, and that offense is so good that he's probably going to score pretty much every week.
Yeah. He's not doing a whole lot through the air, but he's got 147, 177, and 123 rushing yards and 3
pretty
touchdowns.
Good.
That's dang good.
It's pretty good. Aaron Jones is the last member of the tier, and honestly, it feels disrespectful because he's been fantastic so far this year too. So no member of this tier should be considered to be getting shafted because honestly, 7 through 13, you could make arguments that they're all interchangeable, thus the tiers.
They are all outscoring Bijan Robinson right now, every single one of them.
Well, that feels unfortunate for our Bijan Robinson at 6.
It is true. I don't like it either.
Tier 4 is another big old chungus of a tier. We've got 14 to 24 in here. Top of Tier 4 is David Montgomery at 14. 15 is Joe Mixon. 16 is Brian Robinson. 17 is Josh Jacobs. 18 is Travis Etienne. 19 is Kenneth Walker. 20 is J.K. Dobbins. 21 is Christian McCaffrey, but with a giant asterisk next to his name.
A big one.
A big one. 22 is Ramondre Stevenson. 23 is Tony Pollard. And 24, bringing up the caboose, is Najee Harris.
Yeah. I didn't even mention this earlier, and I'll catch you a little off guard with it, but it's fine. DeAndre Swift looks like he's picking up too, and Ramondre Stevenson looks like he's going the wrong direction in rankings. You could put him in this tier.
Yeah, I made a note to myself, and it's not in the show doc, but when I was thinking about rankings, I did ask myself the question, what do you do with DeAndre Swift? Because for 3 weeks, they've been unable to run the ball to the point that there were reports coming into Sunday they were benching him for Roschon Johnson. And then he has the RB1 finish on the week, looks excellent, and you start to wonder if they figured out the run game, DeAndre Swift would shoot up these rankings, and he would probably be top of this tier if you knew that the offensive line was going to be halfway decent enough to where he's not getting tackled as soon as he touches the ball every carry.
Yeah. And he's definitely still getting the receiving workload over both of those guys. I do think, not perfectly, obviously, I think they're starting to kind of see how the carries need to be divided. Roschon got more work than he has been getting. Looked pretty decent in that. Obviously, Swift looked better than him, but Khalil Herbert wasn't a factor at all, really. So I do think they're kind of figuring out to where it's going to be a 1-2 of Swift and Roschon, with Roschon being a more high-end handcuff now, I think. I think he's got the 2 role locked for sure. So if something were to happen to Swift, I think Roschon's going to be pretty decent now. So yeah, I would argue Swift in there with Najee and Ramondre, just because I don't trust Ramondre at all right now.
I think there's a couple names we can look at as players that are candidates to jump up in tiers as the season goes on. Brian Robinson and Kenneth Walker both
Brian Robinson looks
so
good.
Yes. Brian Robinson has looked really good at points this year. He put together an amazing game Sunday. Kenneth Walker is dealing with an injury, but week 1 he was dominant. And Zach Charbonnet did not really exist when Kenneth Walker was healthy and then started eating into things once Kenneth Walker went out. So Kenneth Walker looks like the clear RB1 for the Seahawks for a good offense. If he's healthy, I think he could jump up rankings moving forward. And Brian Robinson has just played really well, but I don't think he's got that name cachet that people have really taken notice of him. I think Tier 4 probably could be split into 2 tiers because you've got a mix of like David Montgomery has been excellent for what he is. Brian Robinson's been excellent for what he is. Kenneth Walker, injured, but has been good when he's played. And then you've also got Travis Etienne, who, like, I don't know, question marks. J.K. Dobbins, been good at points, also not good at points. Ramondre Stevenson, been terrible at points, also good at points. Najee Harris is just kind of old reliable. So, I don't know.
To harp, I guess, a little bit and defend ETN slightly, I think he'll be fine. I'm not reading into any numbers from this last week because he got banged up, missed like a quarter or two, but he came back. So it's not like Tank Bigsby was out snapping him there. Tank Bigsby, he's had kind of a he was good weeks 1 and 2, and now Dearness Johnson is like getting the same amount of work as Tank Bigsby. So I'm not really scared of ETN's workload like some people might be. I don't know where you are on that. So I
don't know
could
that
see
I'm
him
scared about his
closer
workload.
to. I think he's appropriately ranked. I'll say that.
Yeah, fair. I don't.
It's the offense is the scary part.
That is it. Yes, I'm not super scared of Bigsby. I think some people probably are because Bigsby had 7 for 90 on Sunday, which looks very good. The problem with ETN's been that the offensive line has been terrible. I think the offense as a whole has been pretty bad. Like Brian Thomas has looked good, and everybody else has looked like dog water in the offense thus far this year.
Christian Kirk's starting to pick up a little bit.
I mean, he's showing a pulse, but that's saying something considering what he's been doing for a month so far.
Yeah.
Let's jump over here to wide receivers. Also broken up into tiers.
There's some changes up at the top.
There are.
Changes
so in tier 1,
we were not expecting.
I for one am shocked. Tier 1 is 6 players, which, wowza. 6 names already in tier 1 dominating so far this year.
4 of these make sense. 4 of these make sense.
Yeah, we have 2 newcomers that are shocking everyone. It's just great. Anyway, Justin Jefferson at number 1, no surprises. CeeDee Lamb at number 2, no surprises. Nico Collins is number 3 in the ranks. Amon-Ra St. Brown at 4, Jamar Chase at 5, and rounding out tier 1, your elite top of the line fantasy wide receivers is rookie for the New York Giants, Malik Neighbors.
You added some pizzazz on that last one. You sound a little hot and bothered for the young man from LSU.
If you listened to the Starts of the Week episode, you got to hear
3
me
LSU receivers in here, by the way.
Yes.
They make them different in the Bayou.
You got to hear me absolutely lose my sanity over Malik Neighbors. I won't say anything more because everybody's heard my takes on Malik Neighbors. I'm hot. I'm bothered. But he's also the last guy in this tier. I think the surprise of the tier is Nico Collins, who's leading the NFL in receiving yards so far this season.
That I was not expecting. I was hesitant. I was late to come around on Nico. I came around on him eventually for Dynasty, but I still wasn't ready to go there yet in redraft where he was going. I was wrong. I was wrong. I will admit it.
Nico Collins is fascinating because there's now Malik Neighbors is interesting. I think you can sort of put an asterisk in him. There's a reason he's the bottom of the tier, right? He's been excellent, but he's also been doing it with like gaudy target numbers. But I think 1 through 5 all could be the wide receiver 1, like, and have the CeeDee Lamb season of last season. All of these guys are capable of that because they have the talent box checked, and they've also got the quarterback box checked. And Nico Collins, I mean, we were worried a little bit about the target volume that he was going to get in the offense. I think I was a little bit less worried than you were, but there was still question marks. It was like, I don't know. You got Stephon Diggs, you got Tank Dell. It's not like there's nobody else there.
You couldn't say it with 100% confidence like, oh, yeah, it's definitely going to be Nico.
Right. It was, I'm okay with him in the 3rd round. But that's what we were saying. We were like, we're okay with him in the 3rd round. Now he's up to wide receiver 3 in rest of season rankings.
There were people taking him in the 2nd round, and I was like, that's too early, man. That's way too early.
It would have been bold. It would have been bold.
Turns out it wasn't high enough.
No. So, that is tier 1. Tier 1 is excellent. Anything else on tier 1 before we jump down to 2?
No, I think that's a solid tier 1. I like that.
Tier 2. At 7, we've got A.J. Brown. 8 is Marvin Harrison. And 9 is Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek at 9?
It does feel blasphemous.
I want to hold reservation on Tyreek just a little bit longer. But Skylar Thompson... Actually, it's not even Skylar Thompson now. It's
Tyler Huntley. Which,
man,
if you remember, the year that Mark Andrews had 1,300 yards, the quarterback for him for the majority of that crazy run was Tyler Huntley.
This is true.
So do with that information what you will.
This is also, he just got to the offense as well, so
he
hasn't been there very long.
I'm not expecting amazing things here tonight, Monday night, but we'll see. Fingers crossed.
Tyreek could jump up. He could also fall down into a different tier, and it's not his fault. It's what the situation looks like right now.
Yeah. So we're hot and bothered about Malik Neighbors. Marvin Harrison has been good, maybe not as electric, but he's been good. And so ranking him at 8, it seems like maybe it's slightly less than what his draft price was coming into the season. But it's not like he hasn't lived up to the hype either.
I mean, he's got a touchdown in the last 3 games. At least one. 4 touchdowns overall.
It's pretty good.
And 8 targets week 2, 11 targets week 3. This past week, scored the touchdown. Offense was just shut down overall.
The touchdown pretty much salvaged a terrible week.
It saved that. But I think it'll be fine going forward, especially when they get Trey McBride back in the offense. It'll start clicking again.
Yeah. Tier 3. We have a little bit larger tier here. Number 10, we've got Chris Olave. 11 is DK Metcalf. 12, Garrett Wilson. 13, Chris Godwin. 14, Devontae Adams. And 15, Mike Evans.
I don't have a problem with anybody in this tier, honestly. I think they're all interchangeable, basically. Every single one of these guys, you can make an argument to be higher or lower.
I was really interested to see how you were going to feel about Garrett Wilson because
I want him to, and I stand by. I said in the Dynasty episode with Landon that he was a buy after this week because I saw this week happening. Against Pat Surtain, he's not going to do anything. And he didn't because Pat Surtain has shut down every single receiver he's played. So I do expect better going forward because, once again, he is still getting 30% of the targets there. That hasn't stopped happening. It's just the targets are either low because the passing volume's been low or the offense is just getting shut down.
So what's interesting about him is I like using Fantasy Pros expert consensus rankings just as like a barometer, a finger on the pulse for the consensus for the fantasy community. It's not the law, it's not the Bible, but it's just like it's pretty good rankings. It's not keep, trade, cut. It's people that actually do this, full time. Their ranking for Garrett Wilson rest of season is 8, and I thought that was ludicrous. And
I don't think it's
we ended up with Garrett Wilson here at 12.
I don't think it's ludicrous because he is getting 30% of the targets. Like, not very few other receivers in the NFL get 30% of their passing pie. The pie is just smaller than we thought.
So here's the context. He's at 8. A.J. Brown is at 9.
No, I don't agree with that. Once A.J. Brown's healthy, I would definitely take him rest of season over Garrett. And that's why at least to us, that's why they're in a different tier.
Yes.
I think there's a legitimate argument to argue Garrett Wilson higher in this tier, but I would still have him in this tier.
Yes. I'm good with that. What's also really
I
interesting...
would personally, and I'm not going to argue with where we have him at 12, I probably personally would still take him over Olave and Metcalf. But with how things have gone thus far, until we see improvement, I can't in good conscience put him higher.
Fair. What's fascinating about this tier is we've got Chris Godwin and Mike Evans in the tier, which it's just fun.
Wide receiver 5.
It's so much fun that Chris Godwin is good.
And did you know I have once again tried to sell Chris Godwin in the league and couldn't get anything done. No one will buy Chris Godwin. They never will buy Chris Godwin.
I'll buy Chris Godwin. The problem is you're going to come at me and you're going to be like,
because I'm going to want fair value for Chris Godwin.
Yeah,
Nobody. Maybe it's the fair value thing. They're like, he's 28. He's with Mike Evans. Like, he always produces. He always does.
He does always produce. I guess the question is fair value. If you're going in a dynasty league, you're like, let me take this older competing asset wide receiver and let me go get like
he's
a
still
dynasty
28.
stud.
Like, I feel like people treat him like he's 31. He's 28. And they've treated him like he's 31 for about 3 years. It's crazy.
It's because he had his wide receiver 2 season when I think he was 22.
Yeah, and he did that with Jameis Winston. Like, it's not hard to be wide receiver 1 when you're with Jameis Winston. I'm sorry. It's really easy.
Just catch these bombs that he's going to throw at you.
You're going to get 16 targets a game. About 4 of them will be catchable, but you're going to catch them 60 yards down the field.
It's going to be beautiful. Tier 4. It's a big mambo-jumbo of a tier, but I don't know. I feel like these names are all somewhat interchangeable. 16, Devonta Smith. 17, DJ Moore. 18, Deebo Samuel. 19, Jaden Reed. 20, Brandon Ayuk. 21, Drake London. 22, T. Higgins. 23, Stephon Diggs. 24, Cooper Kupp. And then rounding out, because, we wanted to do a nice round 24, but it felt like a disservice to Terry McLaurin to exclude him from the top 24. So we just threw him in there at 25. It's like he's a bonus.
I mean, with what his quarterback's doing, you could argue him higher than that.
You could.
Because
I honestly felt like
he's starting to pick up.
I honestly felt like there was an argument to be made between him and honestly, I mean, I want Jaden Reed really high, but I feel like Terry McLaurin to Jaden Reed at 19, it's pretty much interchangeable. It's just pick them.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I kind of agree there. Looking at the tier as a whole, it almost feels like there's a tier inside the tier because I do think Devonta Smith, DJ Moore, and Deebo Samuel are probably the highest guys in the tier and should be. But it's not a huge difference. I wanted to have Jaden Reed higher. When I looked at Jaden Reed at 19, I was like, surely that's too low. But the production is there for Jaden Reed. But the underlying usage still scares me. He had his highest target game. He had his most targets all season last week, or this week, which was 8. It's 6, 2, and 6 after that. Now, I understand that Jordan Love got hurt, but even in the week that Jordan Love got hurt in week 1, he only had 6. He looks explosive. He looks like he's the best player, and I think he is, but he's not getting amazing volume.
It's so funny, too. Dontavian Wicks had 2 touchdowns on Sunday, and I've been hot and bothered about Dontavian Wicks for a while. The problem is, I was thinking to myself, I was like, okay, yes, he had a great week Sunday. I could go blow the fab on him. But next week, when you've got like 4 good wide receivers in that offense, and I believe the offense is good, am I going to throw Dontavian Wicks into a flex spot? Not a chance. Not a chance. There's just so many good players in the offense, so it's a weird offense in that respect.
Yeah, I like it. It's just, it's like you said. It's scary to throw Jaden Reed in there, and if he doesn't catch a touchdown on one of his 7 targets, you're just kind of out of luck.
There's a name that's not in our top 25 at all at the moment, and I think it's mostly because it was announced he's not going to play for another month. Puka Nacua is nowhere to be found in here. And
I would like to have him in here. I could say we could argue
Yes.
Christian McCaffrey out of the top 24 for running backs too, for the same reason.
Well, I get the thing with running backs is it's just thinner. There's so many
that's
good
fair.
wide
That's fair.
receivers.
That's fair.
With Puka, like I wanted to be here, but if he's not going to play until what would that be? Week 8?
November.
It's pretty rough. So, I thought I would throw that little extra nugget in there.
Yeah, when you yell at us in the comments, where's Puka? Like, he's hurt, guys, and he's going to be out a while.
Don't worry. We are a Puka Nakua podcast. We love Puka Nakua.
It took me
It's
a
not
while,
hate.
but even I'm there now. But when I don't know when a player's going to play again, you can't put him in the rankings.
Right.
You could argue Cooper Kupp out for that same reason. Like they say he's going to be out another week, 2 weeks. Is he going to be out that long? I don't know. Is he going to be longer?
You could. I guess the thing with Cooper Kupp is, though, we know this is going to happen. As soon as he comes back, he's going to have 15 targets. He's probably going to be the wide receiver 3
Yeah, as
on
soon
the
as he
week,
comes
and he's
back,
going to
he's
do
a
it
top.
every single week.
As soon as he's come back, he's producing the same as the tier 1 guys, if not more.
It's going to be insane. So we know that. It's just how much can he make up? How much ground can he make up on those that have dominated the first month of the season?
Yeah.
Let's go to tight ends.
No, that's gross. Tight ends are the tight ends. We're gonna start making leagues without tight ends. I'm sick of this. Tight ends are bad. Great last year. Everybody gets excited. Now they're bad again. I'm done. I'm tired of tight ends. We're getting rid of the position.
This was supposed to be the year. There were so many good options, Ben, and now they're all terrible.
We're back to 2022 to where there's maybe 4 good tight ends.
Well, the problem was in 2022, you knew for a fact Travis Kelce was going to be dominant, and you had a positional advantage there. At this point in the season, there are no
Kelce and
positional
Andrews
advantages.
in 2022. It was Kelce and Andrews, and that was it.
Right. Now you take Kelce and Andrews out of the equation, you remove them from that 2022 season, and the rest of the tight ends are what it is right now.
I don't like this.
It's not fun, but we got to do it anyway. Tier 1, there's 3 names. Number 1 for the rest of the season is Brock Bowers. Number 2 is Travis Kelce. And number 3 is Trey McBride. Travis Kelce at 2 probably sounds insane to some people. Explain the logic.
I don't think it's insane to have him at 1, if I'm being totally honest. And the totally honest explanation is Rashee Rice is not going to play the rest of this season. Hollywood Brown is not going to play the rest of this season. So that leaves who? Travis, Kelce, and Xavier Worthy. But Xavier Worthy's only getting like 3 or 4 targets a game right now. And even when he starts, because he's going to pick up some, but even when that happens, I don't ever see Xavier Worthy as like a 10-plus targets a game guy. At least not this season as a rookie. So we're going to see vintage Travis Kelce because we're going to have to. The Chiefs don't have another option. It's going to be Travis Kelce, and that's it.
Can I interest you in Juju Smith-Schuster? Because that's all that's left.
You can a little bit because he's actually kind of been involved in the offense some. I could see him having a sneaky good season just because he has chemistry with Mahomes from previous years.
Well, this exact it feels like
Go ahead.
it was this same situation 2 years ago. It feels like. I mean, it was nobody else and Travis Kelce, and Juju Smith-Schuster had 900-plus yards as the leading wide receiver for Patrick Mahomes.
But it also didn't cut into Kelce's usage at all. He was still the tight end 1 easily.
Correct.
I think that was the season he was the tight end 1 by literally 100 points.
Yeah, he lapped.
Literally
lapped
100 points.
It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
So I could argue Travis Kelce over Brock Bowers rest of the season. And that's not a
wouldn't fight
knock
you
on
that
Brock.
hard.
It's just I think vintage Kelce's going to be back because the Chiefs don't have another choice.
Yeah. I mean, the problem, even with the guys in the top of the tier, like Brock Bowers has had one really good game and then one not
Last
so
week was
great
bad.
game this past week. Yeah,
Last week was bad, and Devontae Adams didn't play, and he had 2 catches.
I was concerned. I really thought Brock Bowers was going to have a great week because there was no
I love
Devontae
where
Adams.
you and I both got to dude, do I start Travis Kelce over Brock Bowers in log, one of our main leagues? And he was like, we were both like, I think it's got to be Bowers, and Bowers didn't do you any favors.
No, I didn't. Trey McBride rounds out the top 3. I think he's probably been the most consistently decent tight end, but he also is concussed. So even
So
he
when he
cannot
comes back,
escape
he'll
the
be
curse.
fine.
Yeah, when he comes back, he'll be fine. I think if you're looking at a tight end that's probably the most surefire, consistent tight end rest of the season, I think it's easiest right now to say Trey McBride, but with the Rashee Rice injury, Kelsey probably gets an uptick
Kelsey's
in
gonna
usage.
be
They have
really
to.
consistent. I mean, I think we're back to like 12 points a week from Kelsey probably. And if he
And
scores a
that would be the
touchdown,
tight end
18
one.
to 20. Yeah. 12 points without a touchdown, 18 to 20 with the touchdown. I think we can – I feel pretty good about that going forward for Kelsey.
Tier 2.
Gross.
We have, what do we have? 5 names in here. George Kittle's at 4. Dalton Kincaid is at 5. Sam Laporta at 6. Jake Ferguson at 7. And Dallas Goedert rounding out Tier 2 at 8.
I had to argue for Dallas Goedert in this tier, but
You did.
he's tight end 1 right now.
That is the state of tight ends. Like I've been saying, the Philadelphia offense is the Sith offense. There's always 2. And since the receivers are gone, Dallas Goedert is killing it. As soon as the receivers come back, he's going to be a meh tight end option. The problem is no tight end options are good, so he's nice.
To be fair, like in week 1 and 2, when the receivers were healthy, maybe they weren't week 2. I think A.J. Brown was out then, but like he still had 7 points, which, like you said, in the current state of tight end markets, that makes you what the tight end 4 every week if you can get 7.
God, it's disgusting.
It's ugly.
Disgusting. Sam Laporta, I want him to be higher, but he hasn't produced. George Kittle.
Pending tonight's game. We're recording this before the Monday night games.
That is true. Pending the result of tonight. Maybe he goes out and has 12 targets and this ranking looks silly tomorrow. But he's in tier 2. Jake Ferguson has been... Jake Ferguson's been another... Like, he has no
might be
ceiling.
the most consistent one. He might actually be the one who's most consistent on this list.
That's what I was about to say. He has the ceiling of... It's not great. I mean, it's 15 points is about as good as it's going to get for you. But he's never going to go below, like, 6.
I'll take that, honestly. I'll take it. I have Kyle Pitts. Please help me.
Yeah. Okay, so tier 3. This is the figure it out tier because none of these are
The Kyle
good.
Pitts tier, because he's in it.
Yeah. Ugh, these are all gross. These are, you hope for a touchdown. That's what this tier is. 9.
There's names that don't make sense in this tier.
Yes, it's confusing. Number 9, Pat Freiermuth. Number 10, Evan Ingram. 11, Kyle Pitts. 12, Cole Kmet. 13, David Njoku. 14, TJ Hawkinson. 15, Isaiah Likely. 16, Mark Andrews. Goodness gracious. Rest in peace. And 17, Hunter Henry.
I want to say Mark Andrews should be higher, but he's got back-to-back goose eggs. Did you know that if you added the point totals from Mark Andrews' last 2 games and Kyle Pitts' last game, they have 0 points?
Did you know that if you added up 3 of Mark Andrews' 4 weeks of production, you would be stuck with a grand total of 1 catch?
3 of 4. Okay, he only had 1 catch week 1. I was about to say he had like 5 or 6 in week 2.
He did. He had 4 for 50 in week 2, but in all of the other games
If he could get
combined, he
back
has
to
1
that,
catch.
I'd be so happy. If he can get back to that, I will feel so much relief, dude.
4
I'm
for
scared
50,
about Mark
you can work
Andrews.
with it.
Yeah.
He's about to be out to pasture. This is
There's
crazy town.
yeah. There's one name I want to highlight.
Yeah, I know. It's TJ Hawkinson. He's probably going to be pretty good when he comes back.
He's the tight end positions. He's the Rebel Alliance. He is the last hope. Everyone is bad outside of a couple. We need TJ to come back and be good. He is our last hope.
Maybe I'm looking at this with rose-tinted glasses because there's no hope here, but I do think TJ Hawkinson, as soon as he's back and quote-unquote healthy, whatever healthy looks like, he is top of tier 2, and we're getting frisky with tier 1.
I hope that's the case. I really do. The Vikings offense looks incredible. I guess I'm scared to put him there because I want to know what he looks like off the knee injury, but that's weird that you're higher. You were saying more dangerous things about TJ Hawkinson than I was. Even I was hesitant. But once he's healthy,
comparative value.
I sure hope he can be the guy again.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Let's go over here to the quarterbacks because I'm sick and tired of talking about the worst position in fantasy football.
Yeah, let's move on.
With the quarterbacks, we're jumping over here to tier 1. We've got 3 names in tier 1. It should come as a surprise to nobody. Josh Allen is 1. Lamar Jackson is 2. And the third member of the triumvirate is Jaden Daniels. End of tier.
Yes. Yes.
A little spicy? Did we do
brother.
it right?
Preach. Amen. You want to talk about the truth? Jaden Daniels is the truth.
He's over here like Tuco, just tight.
Tight, toit. Did you know that the Washington Commanders have had 16 consecutive scoring drives?
That is the most insane stat I've ever heard.
That's the longest streak in 30 years. 3 decades of NFL football. No one has been able to replicate that since like 30 years ago. That would be the mid-90s. The early mid-90s.
Like, when they said going into Sunday that they had not punted in 2 weeks, I was like, that can't be right. That's got to be a typo. And you look it up, it's like, nope, they haven't punted.
Do you know who the punter is for the Commanders?
No, but
his name is Tressway, and he's punted 4 times this year. 4.
And all of those punts came in week 1.
I don't think it's over exaggerating at this point. Like we got hot and bothered about C.J. Stroud early, and rightfully so. I think we have every reason to be hot and bothered about Jaden Daniels. He's having a better season than C.J. Stroud had his rookie year. He really is. He finally made his first bad throw this past week where he threw an interception. That was the only throw I've seen all season where like, I probably shouldn't do that, Jaden. Yeah, that was a bad one. Other than that, he's completing 82% of his passes. Or I can't remember exactly what it is, but I know it's over 80. Over?
It's over 80.
80?
It's 81 or 82. Yeah.
Over 80? Like for the past 3 or 4 seasons, the highest completion percentage we've seen from guys is like Joe Burrow completes like 70% of his passes, and that's really good. 70% is really good. 80 is unreal.
Well, I think I saw on the Sunday night coverage that he has the highest completion percentage through the first 4 games of any season ever, with like a minimum number of attempts.
I believe that. Like you keep looking at games, and he's consistently like, "Oh, Jaden Daniels is 22 of 23," or Jaden's 20 of 22. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. No, they're putting him in positions to succeed, but I will say, you probably want to. I know we have him at 3, so remember, we have him at 3, but I do think there's a certain part of this that's a bit unsustainable. I don't think 82% is sustainable.
No, I agree with that to a certain extent. Like it's surely not. Is he the Devon Achane of quarterbacks right now? You're like, this can't continue, right? Like, there's always like he's gonna stop eventually.
Yes.
But
I
we need to
think
at least
even
just
if he were
appreciate what we're watching here.
even if he were a 65% or 67% completion passer, he would be in tier at 3 in this tier because he's also doing it on the ground. And that's the thing that CJ Stroud was not doing, and that's why we were saying he was a sell when his dynasty value ballooned the way it did because he doesn't run. Jaden Daniels does run. In fact, he looks a lot like a certain speedster named Lamar Jackson when he runs. So you get that added element.
He looks like Lamar. He looks so similar to Lamar in a lot of ways, and maybe I'm a little far in saying this, but he looks like a better passer than Lamar has ever looked. He looks better.
I don't know about that. I think Lamar Jackson today,
Lamar's
I think, is
good.
a better passer than Jaden Daniels, but
It's close. It's closer than you think.
some of it too.
And I don't know.
And we do need to be
Give props to
realistic
Cliff
about
Kingsbury.
this.
Give props to Cliff.
Yes.
Props to Cliff Kingsbury.
Give a lot of props to Cliff Kingsbury because they're putting him in the position that he needs to be in, a position to succeed. He's got weapons around him. The offensive line's been pretty decent. They're not asking him to do anything crazy.
No, but he's also like, if you watch the games, it's not like he's doing one read and throwing. Like, he's going through progressions.
Yes, he is.
And this is, I guess, why I'm so incredibly blown away and high on him is that he's not the way he's playing right now. And obviously, it is still early, but he's not playing like a runner who can throw. He's playing like a passer who can run.
Yes.
Which is it's unbelievable.
Yes, he's great. He is the surprise and the gem of this year's fantasy season thus far. What's interesting, though, is that if we mosey on down here to Tier 2, Jalen Hurts is a tier below the top 3 names. He's top of Tier 2 at 4. Kyler Murray's at 5. CJ Stroud is at 6. And Joe Burrow's at 7. Yeah, Jalen Hurts has been, how do we put it delicately? The tush push is not what it has been in years past because of a certain someone named Saquon Barkley who has vultured some of those 1-yard rushing touchdowns that Jalen Hurts has fed upon so amazingly the past couple of years.
Yeah. And I believe he has a turnover. Is it 8 consecutive games? 7 consecutive games he's got a turnover?
It's 7 or 8. I'm not sure which.
I mean, yeah, he's got to pick up on the ground or he's got to find some touchdowns somewhere because when you throw one touchdown, rush for 30 or 40 yards and throw a pick or 2, that's not going to get it done. He's the QB 8 right now, I believe, which is not horrible. It's not killing you, but you didn't draft Jalen Hurts to be the QB 8. You draft Jalen Hurts to score up there with Josh Allen.
Yeah, and he's been far off that pace.
And his weapons are out. He's not playing well. He could jump back. He could jump back into Tier 1. But
I think he could. I think with a full complement of weapons, he probably jumps into still at 4, but jumps up into Tier 1 in the 4th spot, and Tier 1 just adds a member. But yeah, for now he's in Tier 2. We'll sort of see how things go. I have seen far too many games where Jalen Hurts has lost the game for the Eagles in the 4th quarter. I don't know if that's a thing you've noticed or not. It's been like 3 or 4 where they've had the opportunity to go win.
They lose sometimes.
Yeah, so many game-clinching interceptions that he's thrown.
It hurts. It hurts to watch. You see it and that was a dumb play. Why did
there was also a stat? There was also a stat on Sunday at the end of the first quarter. The end of the first quarter, the Buccaneers had 255 yards of offense, and the Eagles had 0.
Yep. I'll note one more reason as to why he's been struggling, and that would be a Saquon Barkley problem.
Yes, I think Saquon has eaten into things a little bit.
Not bad for the offense itself, real life, but when Saquon's getting a lot of touchdowns and Jalen Hurts not, something to see there.
Yeah. Kyler Murray, C.J. Stroud, Joe Burrow, anything on them before we jump down to tier 3?
No, I think all of those are appropriately ranked. Kyler, you could argue him lower because he's had 2 bad weeks in a row. Trey McBride's going to come back and he does run, but he's scaring me just a little, I'll say. And I think Burrow and Stroud are basically the same player. They're both elite in real life. Neither one of them runs a ton, but they both, when you combine the real life great and amazing weapons, that's about where they should be.
Yeah. Tier 3. This is a massive tier. I don't know. You might be able to split this tier.
The first name is it feels wrong, but it is what it is.
I know. At 8, it's Patrick Mahomes. At 9, Dak Prescott. 10, Brock Purdy. 11 is Jordan Love. 12 is Baker Mayfield. 13, Justin Fields. 14, Sam Darnold. 15, Anthony Richardson. 16, Jared Goff.
That one stung. That one hung up in your throat coming out, didn't it?
Yeah, I didn't want to do it. After week 1, I was in the Anthony Richardson is potentially a quarterback 1 for the rest of the season kind of player, and then that one crashed and burned.
That one stings just a touch.
Yeah, this is a big tier. I don't know where you want to go here. There's a lot of things we could touch on.
I think we've hit the... Go ahead.
No. Go I think we've hit the Patrick Mahomes one. That one has been pretty well aired out. But where else do you want to go here?
Sam Darnold is actually the QB4 right now, so 14 feels a little low having him. And also his situation could get better because T.J. Hawkinson's going to come back. So I don't know. He's got probably the best complement of weapons, especially once Hawkinson comes back in the NFL. He looks really good. He's not making dumb mistakes. Kevin O'Connell, a lot of credit to him. He's putting Sam Darnold in situations to win. I think you could argue him over, or at least up there with Brock Purdy and Jordan Love and Baker. Like, gosh, Baker's QB3 right now. Like, you could argue him over Mahomes. You really can.
You could.
And this is not. It's well known that I love Josh Allen very much. I'm a huge Josh Allen fanboy. But like, and I want him to beat Mahomes. So like, you say I'm not really a Mahomes hater. Like, I just want Josh Allen to beat him for once. But like the way the Chiefs are playing. You lose Rashee Rice. I think the Chiefs are very content to go out there and beat people like they did, 17-10, maybe like 21-17, like close games where they just let their defense do the thing, and Mahomes doesn't have to do a whole lot. And it's not that he's bad. They're not going to ask him to do much right now, and he knows that as the Chiefs quarterback. Like, all I need to do is go out there and not be stupid, and we'll win the game.
Yeah. Pivoting over here to Sam Darnold, because, he's QB4, has earned some respect. I think this is a paper pop stat. This is the stat that explains the entire argument in the stat. Sam Darnold's touchdown percentage thus far this season is 10.4.
Is high.
10.4. League average year over year in the NFL is 4.5% touchdown percentage. That's league average. Aaron Rodgers, in his best season ever, was 2020. He threw 48 touchdowns, had 5 picks, won the MVP. His touchdown percentage that season was 9.1%. So Sam Darnold is pacing out a full percentage point better than Aaron Rodgers' best season. That's coming down.
It's not sustainable. But I don't think it plummets either. Especially with his coach and the weapons, I don't think it craters. I could see it dropping down to 6. That would make sense.
Yes. That was what I was going to say. I think it probably, if you at the end of the season look up, he probably has about a 6%. It'll be above league average.
It's
but like
a
6 to 7% touchdown percentage, which yes, that is still very good. But the QB4 start on the back of all those touchdowns probably not going to continue.
Yeah, he doesn't have any rushing production, but I mean Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson with Kevin O'Connell. I'm taking that quarterback. That feels like a safe start every single week.
100%. Yeah, Baker Mayfield's been great. Dak Prescott has been very solid. Brock Purdy, honestly, as high a ceiling as you can get in this tier, to be totally honest with you. Jordan Love has been very good as well. All of these guys have arguments. Well. Yeah, all of these guys. And Jared Goff might have the lowest ceiling in the tier, which is why he's last in the tier. But all of these guys
had a good season for fantasy.
No, he hasn't. Hadn't really been there. But we know what he is. He's a pretty solid starting quarterback in a Superflex league, but you just want him as like your QB2.
Yeah.
Let's go over here to the last tier. Tier 4. We've only got 21 names ranked out because
you don't need frankly, that many quarterbacks, guys.
Yeah, past 21.
You're in a 20-team, one quarterback league. You don't see many of those.
No. So we stopped at 21 because beyond that, who cares? But at 17, Caleb Williams. 18, Geno Smith. 19, Aaron Rodgers. 20, shed a tear, it's Justin Herbert. 21, Trevor Lawrence. It's an interesting tier.
I mean, I feel like all of these guys are too high.
Probably.
All ranked too high.
Yeah.
Geno is, I should argue, honestly, Geno should be the head of this tier.
He probably should. I think once we look up at the end of the season.
The way this season has gone, you could honestly switch Geno and Jared Goff.
You could. You could. And maybe things change tonight. Maybe at the end of the Monday night games, Jared Goff has a good 20 to 25 point week, and we're like, okay, there's Jared Goff. He's fine. I think the reason why Caleb Williams top of this tier is just we have seen that he can be really good. We've also seen that the offense, and Shane Waldron sucks. I cannot stress this enough. I've been saying it since the offseason. When we were previewing the Bears, I was like, I love all the weapons. I love Caleb Williams. I love the receivers. I love DeAndre Swift. But Shane Waldron is garbage. And I don't know how much that's going to affect everything.
You don't want to do this to a rookie quarterback and a young quarterback is have a rotating door of offensive coordinators. But do they have to fire Shane Waldron?
Yes.
You've got to get rid of him and Caleb's never going to succeed with this guy.
No, Shane Waldron is not the answer. I could have told you that when they hired him. When they hired Shane Waldron, I remember thinking, and I might have even texted
You've been
you this,
watching the Seahawks
that's a
for
terrible
a while.
hire. I've hated him.
But we overlooked it because DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, Keenan Allen, this is the best situation a number one pick's ever walked into. And turns out it was Jaden.
And also part of this is rookie quarterbacks tend to not be amazing the way Jaden Daniels has been thus far in the season.
But C.J. Stroud and Jaden Daniels have said no.
That is fair. That is fair. Our favorite son, Justin Herbert, is at 20th in here, and I wanted him higher, but I can't make any lucid argument for him to be higher. It is what it is.
Other than I like him.
He's very good. He's a good football player, but there's not much fantasy points to be had here.
He needs to be there. Why couldn't they have taken Malik Neighbors? Why?
Oh, goodness.
They would be so good with Malik Neighbors.
I'm honestly glad, and this might sound very weird, I am glad Malik Neighbors ended up where he did, because part of the issue that him going to the Chargers would have created is that he's fabulously talented. We all know this. but they don't throw the ball. And regardless if they drafted him or not, the offense is probably just going to be a slightly higher powered version of what it is now. They wouldn't throw the ball a ton, even if they drafted Malik Neighbors. Since he went to the Giants, Brian Daboll has utilized him to such an extent that we get to see how talented he is. And half the battle is just use him. Use your talented players. We say that every year with so many different teams. The Atlanta Falcons feel like a perpetual offender here. Just use these talented players that you have, get them the ball, and let them make plays for your team. And that's what the Giants have done with Malik Neighbors. So anyway, we were talking about Justin Herbert, and I just veered off there. But
Malik Neighbors. No, I just want Justin Herbert to have some weapons that he can use. QJ back to being absolute garbage. Like, yeah. He has Ladd McConkey and J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah.
And I like Ladd, and J.K. has coming back and shocked the world.
Ladd is 5 for 40 and a touchdown every week, and he is the bright spot.
I would love Ladd McConkey if they had a legit weapon on the outside. Love him. He would be so good. But they don't have a legit weapon on the outside.
It's a real good team, I think, in real life, but the Greg Roman offense does not tend to produce fantasy wide receivers. Just point blank, period.
And quarterbacks have been good for fantasy under Jim Harbaugh before.
Yeah.
I think they've got to have something. They got to have something. And also, you're in a division where there's a lot of good defenses in their division. The Chiefs defense, the Broncos defense. I don't know, man. It's tough. It hurts me to see Herbert like this. He's getting frustrated on the sideline, too. Like, you can see him. Like, I saw him throw stuff on the sideline of last week's game. Like, he's visibly frustrated with the situation.
Yeah. Anything else on this tier before we call it a night and go check out these Monday night games?
No, I think that's all she wrote. I will say Sam Laporta's already off to a hot start. 1 catch.
Oh, is he?
For 1 yard.
That is
but he's got
all
catch.
you need.
But he's got a catch, which is more than Mark Andrews can say for the past 2 weeks.
The 1 catch for 1 yard, which you or I could do, is, I mean, Mark Andrews
I would
is turning into
I would say he's more than
Kenny
doubled
Golladay.
Mark Andrews' production, but 0 is still 0. So,
are we going to bring back the Kenny Golladay bit, but just replace Kenny Golladay with Mark Andrews?
I sincerely hope not.
We're getting close. We're getting to that point where it's, hey, 2 straight weeks, you or I could produce what Mark Andrews has produced in the NFL.
Yeah. And I'm not getting paid that contract.
I would get my ass turned into a pancake, and it would still be the same stat line at the end of the day.
I would absolutely do that. Give me 1 year Mark Andrews contract. You can throw a jump ball to me with Derwin James and Kyle Hamilton coming at me from both sides. Let them hit me. I've got enough money to pay for my hospital bills. Any restorative surgery I will need after that hit, and we're good to go.
You're going to be Stephen Hawking at the end of the play, but you know what? It's fine. You're taken care of.
I had to get all of my teeth and face replaced, but it's okay.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay, well, on that disappointment, that's all we've got. That is the tiers. Bark at us in the comments. Check us out on Instagram. You can go leave your hate comments there. We're on TikTok as well. We're also on YouTube. You can watch this episode on YouTube and all the other episodes as well. That will do it from us. Ben will see you once again when he and Landon are doing the Dynasty episode later this week. Be on the lookout for that. Have a good one, everybody.
We'll see you.